All right, so hello, I got a free trial for the basic account. So I want to see if the background shows. Does it show? Hold on. I want to test it. Is it showing at all? No? Okay then. Hey JC. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pin this on Twitter real quick. All right, got and interest. Good topic. Oops. Topic for tonight. Tonight. Do, 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 do. Alrighty. So I heard from Volnost that he may show up in the call later. So it's all right though. No, people show up. I don't mind. I don't have that crazy mindset. Oh, you're not coming on time. I'm not gonna do it. No, I'm not SJW. Yeah, I'm not like that at all, obviously. All right, so hold on. Oh. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Can you hear me? I'm doing pretty good.
Cool. Got a new guest on. What a pleasant surprise. Would you like to tell everyone listening in about yourself?
I'm an agorist. Oh, hey, finally. The flag's working. And the background's working. Anyways, I'm an agorist. I've been looking around for stuff. I'm still reading up on stuff, so I really don't want to debate with stuff since I don't have all the facts yet. But yeah.
Well, you definitely have you communicated with any statist yet?
I have a couple. It's a lot more autistic than I'd imagine.
Some are really deluded, and they don't know that they're deluded. It's crazy.
No. See here, I've met a couple fascists.
Yeah, fascists. I've encountered commies of some various sorts, and one really twisted one who admitted his moral compass was broken and he didn't seem to have a problem with it, really. Not much. Yeah, and he was of the statist communist variety. Yeah, really interesting encounter here. Hey, YouTubing Jaguar, the moderator's here.
Neat.
Yep, Ancap flag. Yeah, I wanted to test it out since the basic account trial is up. I might want to upgrade. I want to see what the price is first. I'll check that out later. All right, so I guess we'll get into tonight's topic.
All right, what are we talking about?
As the title says, the utopian slave mindset of statists.
Ooh.
I've recently had an interaction with a statist. quite really misguided one, to say in the mildest way possible about it. And I had chatted with him a couple of days, and I also saw a tweet from a much cringier, obviously utopian statist. I want to bring up the first statist first. Oh, I repeated myself. Anyway. So this one that I had chatted with for quite a while, he has this contradictory, indoctrinated belief that aggression and defense are basically the same thing. Like, if you defend yourself, you're also forcing yourself onto you're forcing your values onto someone else when you're defending yourself. No,
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
It's rare, but luckily.
Not very likely, no. It's mostly just defending yourself. It's just defending yourself, your property, and those you care about.
Right.
And you don't have to say your values or show that you value something when defending against an attacker. So he doesn't seem to get it, and he has it that that it would be okay to have his other main statement that he has with his problem with anarchy and anarchists is that rules need to be forced. And he believes that an anarchic society wouldn't stay in an anarchy because we don't want to force rules onto people. We don't want to be coercive on people. So, yeah. Oh, we got Fenrir here.
Sorry.
Hello.
Never used the site before.
You're coming in too quiet.
Oh, really? I've been having that issue lately.
Yeah, boost your mic a little bit.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that then?
That barely changed.
Go to settings and work on microphone. Turn up volume, maybe.
Hang on.
Well, while he's doing that...
In the meantime, let's talk about something.
Yeah? I'm sorry?
I said in the meantime, let's talk about something.
Yeah, I want to pick up from where I finished what I was going to say. Yeah, so no, we don't want to coerce, and he wants like coercion to be normalized or something like that, like to be more acceptable or something. And he also shared with another anarchist his plan, a bit of an idea on how to fix the system from within. He mentioned something about like the politicians get no privacy whatsoever and have cameras on them everywhere they go. So the politicians are caught lying. But there's a big flaw in his plan because it's not just about the politicians or the cops. The problem, the huge, immense problem with statism, it goes much, much deeper than that. And he doesn't seem to... It's like he's not real bothered when I point out how he has the slave mentality. I pointed that out more than once. And I pointed out what terrorism is. and he doesn't seem to recognize, not at all. When I pointed out what terrorism basically is, and I started describing today's system to him, like mentioned like psychological warfare. Terrorism is pretty much psychological warfare, and it's like he's not phased at all by it. And I go over, and it's like this guy, he trying to remember as much as I can from our 2-day encounter. I gave it a break.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna pick it up later. So yeah, it was like one day I started chatting with him because he responded about taxation. It's like, so why it was something similar like taxation and stuff. And he's like, oh, so why do you hate leaving? He's basically asking. And he was saying something dumb and about the cost of accountability or whatever. Or I forget what exactly. But I mentioned something about gullibility because it's it's the cost of gullibility to believe that taxation isn't theft, that it's not a euphemism for extortion when it actually is. That's how it all started. And there was something else that he said that I'm trying to recall. My mind is drawing a blank, but that's a bit of what I got from him. One more thing that I thought was really weird. Two more things. Now I just remember two more things. One in which he was trying to justify for imposition, and it was a little misunderstanding because he said that that because I exist or something like that, that I'm unwelcome, and it's an imposition that I exist or something like that. And I respond, I exist because I choose to exist, because because I choose to, on my own consent, voluntarily. I choose to be responsible. I choose to be helpful. No one's forcing that on me. I'm not exactly forcing myself to do that. And then he was like, oh, no, I'm not talking about continuing existence. I'm talking about when you're born. That's basically what he said. I said, well, babies can't really control when they are born, so that's a moot point. And he's like, okay, that makes sense.
If you don't exist, then how can you consent?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't consent to free will, but you need free will in order to consent.
Exactly. And it was that other weird thing. When I told him the philosophical statement of an anarchist, it's like, I don't want to impose on you. I want you to not be bothered and in peace. I don't want to impose on you or force anything onto you. And he said that was unrealistic. Yeah. He has no idea of how deluded he sounds. He has no idea how much of a slave that slave mentality that he thinks.
But 80,000 pages of regulations isn't unrealistic.
Yeah. Like, trying to normalize coercion and to equalize that with defense, that's unrealistic. And to say that you can change the system from within in any way, when it obviously obviously won't work. Definitely, and it definitely cannot happen. Once a person goes deep and looks deep into the problem and realizes what's wrong with statism, why it's so self-destructive and bad and evil and disgusting, barbaric even. The person's like, no, I don't want to touch that. That's what a sane person would react. It's like, no. Okay, so J.C. Armitage says non-aggression is unrealistic for the most part outside of those who quote work in the public sector. People practice non-aggression on a daily basis. Yes, that's very true.
Hey, if you don't mind me asking, how's my volume better?
It's
It's a little better.
A little, yes.
Okay.
Is there any way to boost other people's audio on this thing?
Hold on.
How about now?
I can mute
It's
the mic.
slowly getting better.
Oh wait, Volnost is here. Yay.
Hey, Volnus is here.
Yay.
Neat.
Yay,
Hey,
Volnus! Ooh.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Pretty sweet.
Not very long since I first started the topic. I will just sum it up. A very brief summary on the first statist that I interacted with for a couple of days that inspired me to want to talk about this topic for tonight. He is so deluded that he has the contradictory belief that defense is similar to aggression. He has this confused, he has this contradictory belief that if you defend yourself, you're forcing yourself onto that person. You're forcing your values onto the attacker. No.
That doesn't really make much sense.
No, it doesn't. And he was trying to justify imposition on a very moot point, like for childbirth. And like, no, the child, the baby boy or girl can't control its own his or her own birth and can't live on his or her own. Needs parental guidance and love. And so what he said, what I told him was a moot point. And was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. and Shin principle, he doesn't really he thinks is unrealistic. And he has this very contradictory, deluded belief that rules need to be forced.
Sorry.
And the anarchy, because he believes that rules need to be forced.
Okay.
Yep, that's basically it. That I just finished talking about this guy, and now to the who I thought was a more obvious, much more cringier utopian. This person stated that, oh, we don't need a new president, we need a new Congress. Like that's gonna do anything. The problem is no matter who you choose, no matter which politician you pick, the nature of the politician will remain the same. And the politicians are the puppets of the true masters who have like more the psychopaths in charge. I'm basically trying to say they the warmongers, the international banksters, and some corporations that influence, bribe the politicians to get some special privileges that no other business can have. Yeah, so no, you can't change the system from within because, well, many of them don't even realize what the politicians and the other psychopaths really think of them. Yeah, they realize that they lie, but that's only a little bit of the problem. It's on the surface level of things. And this slave mentality, this need to force each other to be civil when that's totally incorrect and it's wrong. It's not civil. All right, anyone want to add anything?
I'll just add that power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's just a little bit of slavery, the human society that has that won't know true peace or true civilization. And that little bit of slavery is just going to grow. Yeah. And like that meme says, statism is the utopian ideal with that just the right people using just the right amount of force in just the right way could make a civil society.
So basically, as Shane Killian said, you're basically saying the state can work, we just need unicorns that can fart rainbows.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Unicorns and pixie dust.
Yeah. Or as Milton Friedman once said, well, that's a nice government you have, but where are you going to find all these saints and angels?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the contradiction of a lot of the humanists. It's like they're like humans are cruel and evil, so we need a state, but humans are going to be in the state, so
Yes, those that are in power, they're human too. They breathe the same air we do,
yeah.
but they don't exactly think.
Cue that meme of that superhero who's seeing two contradictory buttons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Volnost, he says, I'll show this. The most improper job of many, even saints, who at any rate were at least unwilling to take it on, is bossing other men. Not 1 in a million is fit for it, and least of all those who seek the opportunity. J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, what you guys were saying about just reminded me of the quote, so I thought it was a pretty good quote.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it is very good.
I think J.K. Rowling and George R.R. Martin can learn a few things from him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He doesn't change his story just because, it's politically popular, and he doesn't kill every character when we're just starting to develop them.
And he doesn't pull out a Gandalf is actually gay or something like that.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, it was heavily implied in one of the books way before the films came out that Dumbledore might have had feelings for dudes.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Also read them as a younger kid, so I wasn't really paying attention to that also.
Yeah. I actually saw a funny parody of how they made Hermione black in the play, and she said, hey, it's up to interpretation because I never said she was white, even though she actually appears on, I think, a couple of the covers, and she's clearly white, and And a joke I saw is that they make a sequel for the Harry Potter series where he comes back for a Hogwarts reunion and Harry's a Mexican. And Ron's like, Harry, what the hell happened to you? And he's like, oh, Ron AFA, it's me, Harry. Remember me, go? Yeah. And that's what these people want. And of course, if Harry Potter was written by George R.R. Martin, he would have Harry and Hermione fucking each other. Then they kill Ron, and then Harry kills Hermione, and then makes love to Cho Chang. Then kills Cedric because they want the item for that.
Yeah, isn't Harry a kid?
Yeah, I know, but it's George R.R. Martin. Remember, his books rely on two things: sex, in particular between relatives, and backstabbing murder.
Yeah, that's crazy stories. I'm not sure if I'd want to read those. So yeah, and thing is, for most statists, they want to try to those that see some of the problems but don't see the whole problem. They wanted to try to save society, but they don't focus on saving themselves first. Before they save anyone around them, they have to save themselves first. And there's that cognitive dissonance that's in the way. And,
ooh, sorry.
what?
Sinuses. I coughed. Sinuses.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so cognitive dissonance. And those who assume and project their own immaturity onto anarchists, I've seen that before. It is kind of absurd at times. I think it was maybe last month that someone asserted that I was immature, and not long after answering some of her assertions or questions with what I knew, she blocked me. And she was the immature one. Thank you for proving my point that you're the immature one. Projection much? Yeah, and the first guy, he was projecting, trying to project, like when I was like telling him a little bit about cognitive dissonance, he didn't really reach him. He was like trying to shift the burden of proof, and he was quite a few times projecting. But he wasn't too bad. He only like a little bit made sense, but most he was bearable at times. It got to a point where we were getting somewhere, and then context, it gets tricky to tell what context is between messages on some place like Twitter and YouTube comments. Yeah, Zach, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah. I found the quote.
Good. I think it was Lord Acton who said that. I do have maybe something about Larkin Rose that I want to read that's like sort of relevant to bring up to when it comes to like authority outside of yourself, and for status outside when they believe in authority that exists outside themselves, it's like they hallucinate that to be true and legit. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna read this directly. I got some infographic quotes. This is a really good one by Larkin Rose, in which I did ask a minarchist who was really intellectually dishonest. And that was some months back, and actually replied to him on stream. And so, yeah, he strawmanned me on this when I quoted this. Which is scarier to you, 7 billion individuals who might be negligent, stupid, maybe even malicious, and some of them might hurt you, or 7 billion people, some of whom have societal permission to hurt you, to rob you, to boss you around, to cage you, even kill you? The myth of authority does not serve as a check against the imperfections of mankind. It serves as an amplifier of them. Yes, statism is a cult, and statists are NPCs. Changed my mind. Reminds me of the meme in which there's two NPCs in Spider-Man costumes. One with the pink feminist hat, and the other wore the Trump red cap. And they're pointing each other like statists to be like.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Trump tard versus
yeah, I got
libtard.
that one. I
Yeah.
still have that one.
Which will win?
And recently, to point out more of their ridiculousness, like what it's how crazy stupid it is often at times to to see how statists react. Fenrir. Maybe he'll be back. Yep, press F.
F. Someone getting F in the chat.
Yeah. I went. Anyways. What was I gonna say? Yeah. It's something funny that my friend, our friend, a tech helicopter cat, sent me. It was a Monty Python sketch. It was the one with the argument department, and he said, arguing with statists be like.
Remember that? Hey, can I argue with you?
I saw that. I laughed like, oh yeah, I can relate. So I shared that on Twitter with the.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Statists be like. I'm here for an argument. No, it isn't.
That's an argument.
Yeah. All right. I think there's a message in private chat. Volna says he'll be right back. Okie dokie.
See ya. I'm pretty sure you put it.
Yeah, he's just
AF. See ya.
And he's muted himself. Probably.
Yeah.
So it's.
Let's see what was it. Oh yeah, that's right. There's that Democrat. I forgot what her name was, but she's been What's called? Libertarians have been talking about her. What was her name? Tulsi.
Tulsi Gabbard or something like that.
Yeah, it's the anti-war, anti-drug war person who supports the assault weapon ban and stuff.
I don't know if she's genuine.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah. I don't know if she's...
It's a mix between good and bad.
Yeah. She could be controlled opposition. I'm very skeptical about her.
I mean, she wants a whole bunch of socialist programs, but she also has a bunch of libertarian programs, I guess.
Sounds like a very confused person.
The only thing that I've heard from libertarians that they like about her is like her being anti-war and stuff with the Fed. Other than that, I haven't heard really anything.
Well, I think she's just selling bullcrap. Like, you know how presidential candidates pretend to be anti-establishment and they appeal to emotions? Like Trump was like that.
Yeah, and then he banned guns.
Ancapistani. dude, you should come on call or something. Yeah, I missed you. Yeah, I don't trust Tulsi Gabbard. I think she is controlled opposition, and she's no different from the other ones. I think she's just trying to bullshit, pretending to be anti-war, anti-establishment, but also for socialist programs like red alert, red alert, red alert.
That's the only good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the only good things.
Yeah. So Ancapistani asks, did you guys see how she basically nuked Hillary from orbit? That was pretty amazing. Still definitely of the statist variety. Yeah. This whole sideshow that's being shown, that's what it is. It's just
if it was real, she would have been suicided by now.
Yeah. Well, or it could be like how Donald Trump and with Hillary's like on camera and on TV they acted like rivals. When off camera they're sort of like buddy, but like chummy, like chums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was true.
Probably.
JC Armitage says, in addition to what Ancapistani said, all right, I admit that was pretty cool, actually. Ancapistani says, it would be a great show if it wasn't for our freedoms and thousands of lives on the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the sad part about it.
I'm hoping for bad lip readings of this crap, because that's the only reason why I tolerate it. The bad lip reading did like really hilarious hot takes on the presidential debates in the past. Well, you guys got to see those. It's hilarious. And after watching these, like, why can't debates actually be like this? That way people can see how stupid it is. So it's not just bizarre. JC says, Hillary's Twitter attack on Tulsi just further discredits the Mo Russia narrative.
Yeah.
There was something that I heard, a blip, a snippet or something from Hillary on a radio show, which she was like talking about 10-year-old hackers. Like, what?
I mean, it was like 11-year-old that hacked into the Florida, what's it called? The Florida election office.
Mm-hmm.
Or a mock replica of the Florida election office security on stage. Remember that.
So, a young would-be Florida man, I suppose.
11-year-old hacks Florida voting booth.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into it, but just hearing that from her, I was like, "What?" I laughed, and like, it doesn't make sense. Spy Kids Hillary edition.
That's a movie I would watch.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. It would be really kooky hilarious. And I was just, and earlier before starting the stream, I just remembered something else that has been discussed by Brian from High Impact Flicks about Greta Thunberg, or Thunsberg, as Night Shift calls her. Yeah, so it's been revealed on how about her, that she's like supposedly this leader of this cultish climate change people, and it's been revealed that that this girl was on a TED talk, and she was talking about that she has Asperger's, and that she had problems sleeping and eating, and that the father that was being questioned by some rebel media journalists, that and he was like a real douchebag, like just like a daughter with that condition shouldn't be pushed into the limelight. Yeah, that's just too much stress for a kid.
Especially when she's not even an adult.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah, she's very young, and to have a condition like that and to be in such a position, I kind of pity her, because of how her father seems to be exploiting her and pushing on her to be this doomsday cult leader.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the abuse that she must go through. I just can't. Yeah, I'm really sure it's very awful, but I can't imagine how awful.
I mean, the internet's not helping.
No. Yeah. Yes. So that was like another perspective on the utopian mindset, the utopian slave mindset. Yeah, it's so obvious, but it's like people, they're just so stuck on these beliefs, but that they can't see the obvious. That's how brainwashed they are. They don't even know how brainwashed they are, and the best slaves are the ones that don't know they're slaves. It's this crazy illusion of freedom. It's insanity. JC says, "We all know that Greta's part of a cult, the cult of climatology." Yeah.
That's what I'm calling it for now on.
Yeah.
Ancapistani, that's probably the biggest sin of climate fanatics. They're selling fear that would make George Bush cry, and many of the people already have some type of mental illness, not said maliciously. And I bet her dad was like really firm and authoritarian on his daughter to not to deny her condition, her health condition, when the guy from Rebel Media questioned her about her condition. And Vonus, you lost connection there a bit.
Sorry, I accidentally clicked the login thing, and I didn't mean to. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, but yeah, you were only gone for like a second, so welcome back.
Yeah, you didn't miss much.
Yes.
Open link in the tab. I am not doing that. Never mind.
So, yeah, that's all that is pretty insane, and it's insane that these fanatics, they're just so stuck on these contradictory beliefs, that so stuck on reality that's been this indoctrinated beliefs. Beliefs lie, and the beliefs, these lies that were bashed into their heads from a very young age before they could read. Yeah, and Yeah, I am curious. Yeah, the only reason I interacted with this one statist on Twitter who has a desire for normalizing coercion. I'm definitely not getting my hopes on him, but I was there mainly as an observer and note taker, and I let him know about that. I didn't tell him that it's like a medical examiner, like a coroner, examining a corpse of deadly disease or a dying person that already may be too far gone. Yep, so I took my mental notes and I shared them here. Ancapistani, something worth noting as far as Utopia is concerned. So many love to call Ancapistani Utopia. That's true. Yet we outright tell people we don't know the best way for people to live their lives. Of course. Yeah, and they come to us and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, what's your solution if what's it going to be like without a state, huh? Tell us.
Who will build my roads?
Yeah, who will build the roads and how will the rules be? How would the rules work if not forced?"
Yep.
And what about the poor? And what about healthcare?
What about a poor is always the interesting one.
And there's the absurd claims like, "You hate roads, you hate poor."
Honestly, half the time I used to think that was just a straw man from Ancapistani, but no, it's real.
Yeah, it is real.
There's a good amount of people who actually despise roads with all their heart and soul.
Yeah, and there actually people do say that, who will build the roads, and you hate the roads, you hate the poor, and there was there were some videos. Gas the road. JC, a utopia would be giving a handful of people the perceived legitimacy to aggress upon otherwise peaceful people and hoping that they won't abuse said privilege. Yeah, that's exactly what that guy that I was chatting with for a couple of days was. That's exactly what he was thinking. That needs to be legit or something. And the idea of just putting cameras around the politicians when I can already tell that his plan would backfire because the main flaw is that he doesn't know how deep the problem is, how deep rooted it really is. And if without knowing, then you're just gonna repeat what has already happened in history, the same mistakes, and you can't fix problems with the thoughts and actions that caused them in the first place. Otherwise, you're going to get more of the same bad things, obviously. Yeah. Yep. And that same guy said, "Well, I'm statist only because I don't like anarchy." And he also said, "The state is bad, but it's better than nothing." Ooh. Yeah.
There's no state like no state.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no government like no government. Yeah. Ancapistani says he corrected himself. The argument usually is the worst from minarchists. Thousands of years of history have shown how the state consolidates power, but I'm sure 4 more years of Trump will stop it. Yeah, and there are like stooges like Liberty hang, statist hang out. That they were the trumpeteers for him, and then
the state's bad, but the statist is good.
And they actually tweeted something stupid like "Make ANCAP's GOP again."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did someone see that? Have you guys seen that tweet? What's called? If you don't support the Constitution, then you're not an anarchist.
Oh, that's bogus. I hadn't heard that excuse before. That's hilarious. Well, I would just say that obviously don't understand anarchists very well. What our view of the Constitution is.
Yep.
And
yes.
And for once, they actually the statist liberty. Statist hangout said something bad about Trump, that he's been shitty about so-called Second Amendment rights. I'm like, really? It's finally, after quite a while, you noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the memes that I got, that I saved about those bozos. And from time to time, I troll some of these politicians like Beto O'Rourke. I call him Beta O'Rourke. And Bernie Sanders. He says bullcrap like, "Oh, I believe," he was like saying, "Oh, I believe how in traditions like how it used to be and with the Constitution." How bullcrap. And one of his latest tweets, in which he said that, "Oh, I'm going to take on the greed of the elites and the corporations." And I'm like, translation, "I'm going to take on the greed and of the elite and corporations by joining them."
Problem solved.
Totally. I also added that your initials are BS for a reason, and you're owning it. Yeah, and this guy is so crazy. He insists that he go on his power-hungry search when didn't he have a heart attack not too long ago?
Yep.
Yeah, he should have retired, but no. That guy is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Ugh. Yeah, and Ancap, there are some definitely dishonest minarchists out there. Veteran Mountain Man, or Veteran Mountain Ignoramus, as I call him, still fresh in my memory. And I wrote about him as a prime example of how statists reject reality to justify their faith in the state. And he called he's, of course, extreme.
Yeah, something I hear a lot as well.
Yes, really sticking to them corporations by having a 60% capital gains tax. Take that, Grandpa. Take that, you dirty 401k retirement funds. Yep. There's a reason why his initials are BS.
Yep.
That's my favorite meme about him.
It's what God intended.
Yeah. And the other one was that I still have is never trust a man who combs his hair with a balloon. Burning charms will magically make this happen. And there's a Lord of the Memes style one. Bernie Sanders, Lord of the Dinglings. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Man, it's great that we can just look at how crazy and stupid that statists are and just gotta laugh at the stupid. Just gotta make fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's shift the topic to something else.
Yeah.
I pretty much got the point across. Pretty much nailed it on the head several times. Nails as hard as it can be nailed. JC, Bernie Madoff with all of our money to quote fight greed. Yeah, it's so easy to see right through his bullcrap.
Yeah.
No, never mind. I'll save that thought for another time. Something about related to mocking the propagandists. I was thinking about Greg. Someone I was thinking about one of the anchor guys that is obviously a crazy guy. He said some things like it was totally normal and common knowledge, and I made a comic making fun of that. But that's for another time. I'll go into that for another time. And I already pretty much talked about the importance of ethics and why that matters. I did a 2-part video on that, and it's still some of my best, I think. Yep, it's sort of buried beneath all the other stuff, but you should find it. In Gilbert Gottfried impersonation, the 1% Koch brothers. Yep, we're having so much fun. So much fun making fun of these power-hungry narcissists. Yeah, I think it's very important to understand how narcissism is rampant and thrives within statists, among statists and statist societies. Yeah, it's another big thing of the problem that statists should recognize whenever they're going to do it, and stop clinging to the authoritarian security blankets. Let go. Stop clinging to that. It's not doing you any good. And it just shows your immaturity.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's been going on with either of you?
Me, not much. Recently, I just spammed Amazon for anarchy books, so now I have like 9 or 10 of them that I need to go through.
Oh, books? Like which ones?
Nice.
Like, can you name them some of them?
I got Murray Rothbard's The Ethics of Liberty, and then The Machinery of Freedom. I also have Larkin Rose's book.
Oh, was it the
Nice.
most dangerous superstition?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's really good. And I have a PDF copy of one of his other books called Kicking the Dragon.
Yeah.
It's about his own account in prison for not paying his extortion fee to the IRS.
Yep.
Yeah, I've yet to get back to that. I know I started it, and it was a little interesting. I've yet to read more of it.
Personally, I just like reading physically, or I like listening to audiobooks.
Yeah,
For some reason, I just can't read on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I can only read
mostly
like short articles
mostly
on phones.
Yeah.
And of course, I like in my previous streams, I like read aloud on stream a couple of books. Like earlier this month, I actually streamed about 3 days per week earlier this month since it was like Halloween. It's Halloween month, so why not read one of the? So I figured, why not read one of the S.D. Perry novels based on the Resident Evil games? Yeah, that was fun. JC liked that.
Nice.
And I've been reading another novel, and I picked it because of this plot twist in which, well, it's like a post-apocalyptic setting, and these aliens, really smart, sinister aliens, have been wiping out humans from one disastrous wave after another. First, it was like a massive EMP, and then it was coastal tsunamis, and then something like Ebola, really bad, and like these alien entities going around as human bodies, unknowingly entering into the wombs of some mothers, and they don't even realize it, and it's like the entity fuses with the kids, and that are the invaders, and they sort of like blend in, and then they plotted to go after humanity. And the plot twist was the aliens that had this military. They had this like military base, and they had uninfested kids. They were training them to and brainwashing them to go after what they said were infested, but it was really like more victims of the alien invasion. And I don't and I can't, and it's I'm not shocked. It's not shocking to me that something like that would actually happen, like kids getting indoctrinated by this military in that way, under the guise of an alien invasion. Ancapistani says he's been going more into the classics. He started reading Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. I haven't heard of that one. I'm sure it's interesting. Oh, I missed this. JC says it won't truly be Ancapistani until drone delivered recreational McNukes are a thing.
Gotta get McNukes.
Yep, McNukes.
Here's a legend.
Yeah, so yeah, I do plan on eventually continuing through the other book, The Fifth Wave, which has the alien, the post-apocalyptic alien invasion setting, and definitely over halfway through it, and it's gotten really intense. And I do have the sequel for it, but between finishing the first book and going to the second book, I was thinking maybe off stream I could show the Fifth Wave movie. Yeah, and we could talk about what we liked about the film and how the comparisons between the film and the book. That would be really interesting. And Capai goes more into the book he's been reading. He says it has a really interesting take on how nihilism can swallow the sanity of those who blur the lines of morality. Yeah, that's actually very accurate. That's moral nihilism. Yeah, I've definitely encountered a few people like that. And I asked if the person had a philosophical statement, and he said that he had none. While talking about um, like trying to justify government or something. And it was like, and the person was sort of mocking me too. Yeah, nihilism, that's just, yeah, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And any society that is run that's mostly based off fear and has very little ethics, which is pretty much the reality of how it is, yeah, that's definitely not a free society. Definitely not peaceful. Definitely not civilized. No matter how much the person that tries to justify begs the question or tries to rationalize or tries to deflect and project. Yeah, and confusing, having this confusing belief about that conflates aggression and defense. That's just
Hey, I got a statist who wants to talk to us.
A statist wants to talk.
Yeah, I don't know why. He just really wants to talk to me. It's been, you know, the guy who you muted on the Discord.
Yeah, the troll. He's been doing that to everyone, pinging them and asking them to VC.
Oh,
yeah, don't bother.
I just gave him what he wants. Let's see how well he defends statism.
Oh boy!
Ooh.
But he's not even joining it. Oh, then again, it takes a little while.
Yeah, then I've come across some kid who was one of those garbage trolls, and he said something ridiculous that didn't make any sense. And I pretty much sent him the GIF from Billy Madison. That was the most incoherent statement. Now everyone else is dumber from hearing that. It sort of went like that. And later on, he DMs me and he says he wants to debate me. I'm like, no, I don't debate trolls. I don't debate stupid people.
Yeah, it's just like a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's not constructive.
And he's like, oh, if it's like that, then you can easily do it. I'm like, no. It's not worth it. It's like I could crush him. I could own it in a debate and be the gloating victor, and he could be like the sore loser or whatever. but that's not my cup of tea. That's not my forte. That's not the debates that I like.
Yeah.
Who's that? Who is that?
Who's who? Is he in?
Is it like S with like 5 E's or 2 E's? C.
I mean, if he
K,
starts getting
T?
toxic, we can just kick him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, hey, it'd be what's it called? It'd be a good live, what's it called? Live example of the statist mindset.
I suppose. If it gets too cringy, you'll just kick him off.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello there.
Hi. How's it going? And you've been
pretty swell.
Going okay.
Pretty good. Okay, you've been streaming for a long time, huh? Got a lot of time on your hands.
Oh yeah, my streams are usually 2 to 3 hours long.
Don't any of you have like school or work? Nothing?
Well, I do have work, but I don't work at night.
Like, yeah.
Well, are you? Hold on, and Kitty, are you like a 12-year-old boy or a girl? I don't know, dude.
I'm a 35-year-old woman.
You're a 30. Oh, okay. That took a twist.
A twist?
Yeah,
What a twist.
Described you as a 12-year-old child. My apologies.
Right off the bat, every anarchist is a 12-year-old child.
Yeah. Usually, yeah, that's what I find. A lot of them don't have any real life experience,
Personally, I just turned 8, so.
You just turned 18?
I'm a
8. No, I just turned
5-year-old.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. You can keep talking. I'm waiting for someone to come and watch the stream if that's all right with you. So take your time. I'm gonna mute myself for a few minutes. So that's okay.
Okay.
How much longer are we gonna be streaming? Just curious.
I don't know. Probably 10:30ish.
Oh, all right, that works.
All right. So. JC. There are no truth claims is in and of itself a truth claim, making that a logical paradox. I missed something earlier. JC was responding to this. Like those people who claim there are no truth claims with absolutely no self-awareness. Yeah, there are such people. And Ancapistani continues exactly. Big
I'm gonna be right back.
Which these people like to pull when they claim morality is subjective and try to make moral judgments on a given action they don't like. Gasp and M. Night Shyamalan. Like, what a twist! Yeah. Yep, this is fun. I'm glad I brought this topic up. I guess it's been. I already pretty much nailed it to death about cognitive dissonance, which is why I didn't go much into that earlier. So, but it's just that mindset that I really felt the inspiration to speak on.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been the first time in which a statist has been on my stream. And I'll include the commie idiots that raided my earliest of streams a few times. Yep, and I haven't heard a word from those goofball bunch. The anti-ANCAP action gang. That's what they called themselves.
Never heard of those.
Oh, there are some commie kids that I've first met through a YouTube live stream, and there was this leftist. It was like his idea to raid Ancap streams. A YouTube live stream. Mute the video, please.
What?
I hear echo. I hear my voice echoing.
I have a real shitty computer. I apologize. The video was muted.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I heard it for a second there.
So I have a question for y'all, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So how do you intend on achieving this?
And achieving what? Anarchy?
An anarcho-capitalist society.
Well,
if you don't, that's okay.
Well, we can't exactly. Well, we are already doing what we can to help Ancapistani bring about, and that is through exposing the problems with statism, the problems of a state, and going over what research we've gone into, like sharing thoughts, opinions. I've been hosting different live streams about the different problems that have been going around, such as a really big problem about that's like global communist agenda called Agenda 21, the United Nations agenda.
Oh, okay, I'm going to stop you there for a second. That doesn't really answer my question. That just tells me how
Oh, yeah. Well, we're working on it. We're working on it. It doesn't happen overnight.
Though.
Yeah. It has to be gradual. Like there is no magical solution to make the problems that come with the state to go away. And there are some that there are some anarchist communities.
Elaborate a little bit. How do you intend on making the state go away?
Well, some are already working on it, like using the counter economy to compete the state out of business. There's that going on. And there's my little small invite group. I won't say too much about it since the project hasn't really picked up yet, but it's just expanding on out competing the state and setting up little communities.
What'd you say? I think
out competing the state. How?
Through agorism.
Would you like to explain to me what agorism is?
Zach, you're an agorist. Would you like to go over that? Zach?
I think he's muted, so you might be gone.
Okay. Well, agorism is basically operating to evade the state as much as possible.
Basically,
it's doing business, like that aren't very heavily regulated. Doing business with cryptocurrency. It's basically participation in counter economy, farmers markets, cryptocurrency, going off grid, and setting up. There are those that set up that try to do what they can to avoid being oppressed upon too much. Okay, so Antepi from the live chat, he says, subverting the narrative by taking control of the language back, rejecting state litigation in favor of private arbitration.
Okay, that first part doesn't make any fucking sense, unless you want to explain it to me, because I'm just a doddering retard. So.
What do you mean? Like the counter economy part? What part did you mean?
Sorry, I'm having two conversations at once.
Okay.
There's a man, I wouldn't necessarily call him a friend or an acquaintance, but I know him, and he really wants to get in and talk to you. He is an economics major, so I feel like he'd be sense. So if one of you could send me an invite, that'd be great.
I don't know. I think that might. You know what?
What's going on?
I have this guy. He wants wants to invite someone else.
Yeah, I'll try to remain quiet as much as I can, but I feel like this guy will be more equipped talking to you because, like I said earlier, I don't know if you heard Zach, but he is an economics major.
Wait, I am?
I'm sorry?
What? Did you say I was an economics major? Or what's happening?
No, the person I'm inviting.
Oh, Keynesian economics?
Yeah, that guy.
Oh, neat. Austrian versus Keynesian time.
Keynesians.
Yeah, dude.
All right. JC Armitage. He is attempting to simplify it for you.
That didn't simplify it. That just made it more complex. It looks like it's just a bunch of gibberish, so I'm just going to ignore that from now on and move on. So, again, if you could write Keynesian boy or tennis ball's life, that'd be great. Or if you could just send me an invite and I'll give it to him, that'd be great. Thank you.
Well, since we got 4 in here, we can only allow 2 more people in, but I think we could let in 1 more.
Yeah, he's not going to invite anyone else, and I won't invite anyone else. It's just this one.
Good. That's what I was worried about, because I invited someone, and he thought there was like someone pretending to be someone else that who was Ancap, and these idiots raided my Google Hangouts call and an overstream, and that really sucked. So yeah, it's not fun. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to copy the invite and send it to you on private chat on.
Thank you so much.
Well, this should be interesting. Yeah, anyway, there's the invite link. All right. Ancapistani. Left has changed what language means, like racism, gender, whiteness, and the like. These words have been distorted by academia and need to be recognized in order to combat that side of the state.
That sounds a lot like something in 1984. What was it? Newspeak? That's it.
Yeah, Newspeak.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have mentioned this before in an earlier stream, but the year I was born, it's 1984.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Ain't that something? All right. I guess
it's saying this site can't be reached. I don't know what that means. I've never used this before.
What are you trying to do?
He's trying to invite his Keynesian friend on.
Okay.
Yeah, the invite you gave just says it doesn't work for him. I don't know if you have to do it to him, give it to him directly, or if the link just expires after being posted somewhere for a certain amount of time. So.
Okay. You know what? Does he have Discord or Twitter?
Yeah, he has a Discord.
Okay, and private chat, I'm going to give you my ad, and you could send that to him, and he can add me, and I could invite him here.
Or I could just give you his Discord.
Okay.
I mean,
I posted it in private chat.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to add this person as a friend. Oof. Well. Okay. Tennis ball is life.
Also, for future reference, I'd prefer it if you don't circle jerk him or dogpile him. That'd be great.
Yeah,
well, we're not going to do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll probably stay out of it.
Is it that all the spaces? I sent the friend request. It didn't work.
The link should work. I just tried using it.
Technical difficulties. Oh, Isonzo, is that him?
Tennis ball says it has to be capitalized exactly like his name, word for word.
Nope, didn't work. I wonder if it's like the words together. I don't know. The space.
Add friend. No, that's not it.
Well, maybe it's space. The hashtag number is.
Okay, Zach, I have a better idea. You know that server you and I are in?
Got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay, never mind.
What's it called? Anarchy Hangout? Yeah. What about it?
Yeah.
She got it.
Oh yeah, Volnost posted it on my server. Okay, here we go.
Alright, yeah, go on with what you were saying. Alright then.
Yeah, okay, messaging your friend right now.
Hey, Sec, you said something? Alright then. I give up.
Hold on. Yeah. Alright. Alright, about to send an invite now. Alright. Alright, tennis ball. He says he doesn't know why, but the site will not open for him.
That's weird.
Okay. Well, yeah, I give up. So I don't know.
All right. Anyways, Sec, you did say. Am I muted? Or is it just not?
We can hear you.
No, I hear you.
All right. Anyways, you were saying something.
I was not saying something. We were busy trying to get tennis. If you want to say something, though, I'll argue off of that. All right. Go ahead.
I have nothing.
No. Well,
I just heard you starting to talk about something, and then I guess you just gave up.
So I'm still interested how you intend on achieving an anarcho-capitalist society just by discourse, because that doesn't seem to be working. So.
Well, I got what's called. There's a couple of things that need to be put in. You can't just have like counter economics without ideology, and then you can't just have ideology without counter economics, obviously. So, I think the mixing of two with Hans Hoppy's plan of secession would be a pretty good method.
Mm-hmm.
And you honestly think secession will work?
If you get enough people to secede, then it will work. Just
I think that was the South's strategy.
Yeah, but it was like a 50-50 war.
Yeah, not really, but okay. You honestly think you're going to get states to secede from the Union, and then either the government will leave you alone, or if they don't, you'll just win a protracted war, right? That's your plan?
No. We don't want to go to war with the state. That's suicide. There's not nearly enough of us, I don't think.
Okay, then you can't secede because states cannot legally secede from the Union.
Well, the thing is, we can't get the states to change their minds. We don't want to engage with the state. We engage with their followers, because statism is like a cult religion. And without the believers, the state doesn't have much support if their believers are they don't want the state anymore. So we've been going in that direction.
Hearts and minds, basically. That's what you're going for, not secession. Because Zach here was arguing full secession. So I don't know. Do you two disagree on how to achieve this? I mean, what's the standard here?
No, I'm saying like in late term, we'd have secession, but not like right now, or not just secession.
Oh,
we need a mixture.
Hold on, I'm sorry. The man I wanted here is here, so I'll just
finally. So for whatever reason, my antivirus didn't like this website, so I'm taking a gamble by coming in here.
It should be fine. I think it's the microphone thing, since it's picking up that it's tracking what you say. But
it said something about phishing, but I don't know how this phishing with a PH. It's where you send people like an email or any other sort of message to trick them into thinking you're a reliable source. And they basically want your like information, like passwords, credit card information. They'll pretend to be your bank and say like, there was a problem on your account. You have to send us your, routing and account number to verify you're the owner or whatever and stuff like that. Just trying to steal information. I don't think that this is what the site is doing. So I don't know. It is what it is.
All right. So Ancapistani brings up a fair point. He says, well, there are options for a more peaceful method. The state hasn't gone all Waco on the Amish yet. and they have built their own tightly knit, cloistered communities.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't think that, the United States economy is going to be overrun by like farmers markets and I forget whatever stuff you're talking about. But this conversation is a little bit boring to me. I don't know if you guys are okay with kind of shifting to another discussion or if y'all want to stay here.
I don't mind.
Okay, so do y'all want to talk about like what, just like econ, like just basically Austrian versus like Keynesian econ, or do you want to talk about more like general socio-political arguments for, would Ancapism work or not work, or is statism right or wrong or whatever? Do you want to get into that, or what do you want to talk about?
Statism, right or wrong? I could go for general economics. I could go for that topic. A socio-political. I could go for either of those two. Free market economics versus socialist.
Well, I'm not a socialist, but because Keynesian. But I mean, like, I don't know what do you want to talk about? I mean, so do you guys like? So why do you think the state is wrong? I guess I'll just ask that.
Well, there are multiple reasons as to why the state is wrong. For one, it's the tactics they use to manipulate and coerce and brainwash their subjects to obey them. That's one reason why. And it's just the inconsistencies within the beliefs of having a state. It just contradicts reason, and a society that lacks ethic. Okay.
I would argue that it's a contradiction to believe in like Ancapism. If you're not a left libertarian, and you said you're a free market capitalist libertarian or ANCAP. Obviously you said ANCAP.
ANCAP or free market libertarian. I go for either.
So, like, do you believe in the concept of like the non-aggression principle?
Of course.
Right. And so I don't understand how do you square the concept of private property and the non-aggression principle?
Private property?
Yeah, private property. How do you square belief in the private property and belief in the non-aggression principle?
I mean, they don't contradict each other at all.
No, they don't.
Yeah, non-aggression principle is based off of private property rights.
Both stem from the principle of self-ownership.
Yeah, exactly. So you own yourself. Yes. So it's wrong for somebody to make an aggression over your body or your self-expression, right?
Or your property.
Why? Well, I don't think that you've really justified that. So, but let me just flesh it out a little bit. So, like, in the same way that the government is an act of aggression on its own, because you're basically saying that we're going to establish these laws that dictate your behavior, and and we can take a little bit of money from you as well. And this is all backed by force. So basically, to require you to obey a certain law is an act of aggression, because you're basically implying that if you don't do this thing, we're going to kill you, right? So when you have private property, like when you have land, what you're doing is you're basically cutting off some section of land which you don't have any inherent ownership of, unlike you do of your body. And you're basically telling other people that if you walk on to this piece of land, then I will aggress against you to remove you.
Not necessarily. People that are just passing through, they're allowed to pass by.
Well, what if I want to live in? What if I want to, like, say you have a home? What if I want to live inside your home? Like, what if I walk in and need somewhere to sleep?
I mean, I'd probably let you sleep in there for the night, but you got to ask me first. You can't just kick down the door and say, "All right, I'm sleeping in here."
Well, So what if I do not kick down the door, but I walk onto your property and start, set up a tent and just start sleeping there? What are you going to do?
I'll probably just pick you up and throw you out and tell you stop.
So you're going to like aggress against me?
I mean, you aggressed on me by coming in my property.
I didn't aggress against you. I need a place to sleep.
You could have asked for it.
Well, why do I need to ask just to have a place to sleep? Like,
because it's my property.
What makes it right for you to have it? What makes it right for you to aggress against me?
What makes it right for me to own it?
Yeah. What if
you bought it? Or I made it with a group of people, or just myself.
So what makes it like your land just because you bought it? Like, what gives you the right to aggress against me just because
it's unknown property, whenever you mix your labor with your labor with the soil, then it becomes owned property.
So all I have to do is like work on a piece of an area of land, and I can aggress against other people and tell them they're not allowed to access it.
I mean, it's only that area in which you work on. So if you build a farm, that is your farm.
So like I have to own a piece of land, I have to work on it consistently. So like at what point in time does it stop becoming my property if I don't work there often enough?
I mean, generally after 20 years, it would be considered abandoned property, but if you just keep coming on there, or just
in Ancapistani,
yeah.
According to whom is it going to be abandoned property?
The local relatives
owner of that property.
So like what? But if in Ancapistani, if I don't even work there, for 20 years, but I still don't let people go onto that land, I mean, who's to tell me that that's right or wrong? Because it's my land, and I'm just telling people they can't go on it.
I mean, are you paying someone else to watch over it, or?
We'll say I'm watching over it myself.
All right, well, you're there. It's like putting a watch in a drawer for 20 years. It's still your watch after the end of 20 years. You just live in that house. You don't have to actively use it.
You just said a minute ago that normally after 20 years, if you're not working there, you
that house,
not your land anymore.
Or that.
Well, what if I just own the land and I don't work there, but I'm just removing people? What makes that right?
You keep going to that place.
So the fact that I'm defending it, the fact that I walk there with a gun to defend it, makes it mine.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you just said.
Well, it keeps being yours whenever you keep defending it, but that's not how you obtain it.
Well, I've already obtained it, right?
All right.
So,
and yeah, as long as you defend it and you use it, then it's yours.
Yeah, right.
Or you pay someone else.
How is that not an act of aggression against other people, violating their non-aggression principle? Because you're cutting off a piece of land that you're not using and telling other people, if you walk on this land, I will aggress against you, right?
I mean, if you have food growing there, or if you have Bitcoin miners or anything else you're actively using.
You don't have food growing there, right?
So you don't maintain it. It's just a field of grass that starts growing.
It's an asset, right? And I'm hoping it appreciates value so I can sell it later, for example, right?
All right.
So is that not literally aggressing against other people, right? Because you're basically cutting off a section of land that is part of the earth and telling other people, if you try to encroach upon this land, I am going to aggress against you. In the same way that a government official saying, hey, you can't do X, Y, or Z is implicitly aggressing against you by the nature of how government works, because it's implied force.
All right. Well, first off, the government doesn't own the entire country, so there's that first part.
Well, who says they don't own the entire country?
Well, did they ever mix their labor with the land to own the entire continent?
Yeah, the government, 100%. What do you mean? What do you think, like, the police force is, right? What do you think that, like, the military is, right? They're actively defending and maintaining their land. They're building roads, and like, absolutely, they're using labor to maintain. The government is to maintain, the territory of the United States of America.
Oh yeah, another thing, if property is stolen and it's found out who the aggressor and the victim is, it's automatically returned with no compensation to the person. So all the Native American lands should be returned back to the families.
I mean, this gets into Okay, that's another can of worms to not get into. I just feel like you're not actually, for me, you are saying, hey, I don't believe in aggression against other people, but then you're totally defending it when it comes to my property rights or my land rights. But for some reason, when the government does it to protect like the social good, prevent, for example, to make murder illegal, so we prevent people from robbing and murdering and stuff, or even if they take a little bit of people's income so that we can distribute it to the most needy people in society, y'all are saying, oh, that's horribly wrong. But some landlord with a gun just walking around on a piece of land, preventing homeless people from sleeping on it just because he wants it to appreciate with value is totally fine. I feel like you're just totally contradicting yourself.
The landlord doesn't exactly have to be anti-homeless.
Well, he is implicitly right. If a homeless person,
people, they must respect the property owner. The property owner sets his own rules.
But like, I'm asking you why though. I basically asked why should the homeless person be forced to respect their property rights?
No, they don't have to be forced to respect. But if they
is that not what you're doing?
They gotta leave.
When you like cut out a piece of land, point at people with a gun and saying, hey, if you walk onto this piece of land, I'll kill you. Like you are forcing them.
Hold on. I have a question to just clarify on your concept of property. Do you believe in the statement property is theft?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But that's because I don't believe in like a non-aggression principle. I think that certain like implicit statements of aggression can be justified. But no, I don't believe. Well, like owning land. I think that's a justified statement of aggression. I think that laws are a justified statement of aggression. I think taxation.
What about homesteading?
Homesteading. I mean, I probably think it's okay to homestead. I mean, sure. I mean,
but then you're holding a gun and keeping people from going into that house.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's fine. Like I said, I don't have anything against implicit acts of aggression like that. I think that some can be justified. But you seem to say that you believe no acts of aggression are justifiable. And
no initiation of force.
That there should be no initiation of force. Yet, it seems that for you to believe in private property rights, you're implicitly saying that some initiation of forces are okay. I feel like that totally blows up your entire moral system and your entire critique of the state.
Well, do you believe that private property rights are state provided?
Do I think that the state provides private property rights? Like, can you refine what you mean by that? I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
Like, is the state the reason why we have property rights?
So if you're asking, like, do I think that private property rights are these intrinsic aspects of the universe? No. So, and do I believe that more or less, if there's not like some sort of centrally enforcing body of your rights, you more or less don't have them? Also, yes. So I guess the answer to your question is yes.
Well, the state can't be a provider of property rights if it imposes on private property rights through like eminent domain and property tax.
Well, yeah, it can though, right? Like, just because you take taxation doesn't mean you also don't protect people's private property rights, right? If somebody enters my house without permission, I can call the police and they'll get them out, right? They are protecting my private property rights. Just because they take taxes doesn't mean they're suddenly not protecting private property rights at all.
All right. So if you have problems with property rights,
I don't.
Well, about certain property rights.
Well, maybe.
Can you complain if someone robs you of all your possessions?
Yes. Because I never said that I don't believe in private property rights. I do believe in private property rights. I also recognize that by me owning, I guess technically owning this apartment, I'm renting, but by me like signing the lease to this apartment, I am basically telling other people that either I will physically aggress against them or I will call the police to aggress against them if they try to enter my property. And I recognize that is implied aggression, but I'm okay with that. My point is that you say that all acts of aggression are equally are wrong, yet it seems to me that you are implicitly allowing an act of aggression to maintain private property rights, which you say are fundamental.
I think you're confusing defense with aggression. I think you're confusing defense with aggression.
Well, the problem is that's the entire point of the discussion we were having earlier. Remember where I was basically talking about what if you just owned a piece of land and homeless people were trying to sleep there? By the homeless people trying to sleep on just some piece of land that you happen to have a deed that has your name on it, they're not aggressing against you. They just need a place to sleep, and you're cutting out.
That's fine. They can sleep there for the night if they need to.
So
but they also should respect the private property owner.
But why? They need somewhere to sleep
because he's letting them sleep there.
So you think that whoever should, if they need somewhere to stay, should just be allowed to walk into your house or walk onto your property if they need to sleep for the night?
Well, they can walk up to the property and ask me.
Yes.
Well, but no, the homeless person in the earlier situation didn't ask. They just went and slept there.
If the homeowner wants to, he can kick him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so he would be that homeowner, he or she, I guess I should say, would be committing an act of aggression, right? They would be initiating force against somebody because the homeless person didn't initiate any force against them to just try to sleep on their land. They weren't being forceful. You're cutting, like what you're doing is you're basically cutting a piece of land and telling other people, hey, this is off access to you, or else I am going to kill you, or I'm going to initiate force against you, which is an implicit statement of violence, which you say you don't believe in.
I mean, violence is only justifiable in self-defense. And if it's your property, then it'd be rightfully yours to keep and maintain.
So, well, the problem is that you understand how your logic is kind of circular here, right? So you're saying all initiations of violence are wrong.
Right.
And then I'm saying, okay, so is me not taking a piece of land and then saying, hey, if you enter on this land, I will initiate violence against you, a statement of violence. And then you say, oh, well, that's justified because it's your private property rights. But what actually makes it your private property rights? Oh, well, I established this piece of land and said that nobody else can walk on it, right?
Well, not just that.
You understand how that's circular?
You build something man-made.
You got it confused. A person can just walk on by. The person's not really doing anything. And no sane person is just going to attack someone from just walking across on their land.
Well, you have to get something man-made. You can't just
brief moment of time. No harm done.
Earlier, you said that if a landlord was literally just had a piece of land and it was an asset and they wanted it to appreciate on value, and obviously letting homeless people sleep there would depreciate value, you said that it would be justified for them to go there with a gun and basically force all the homeless people off of his land, right? You're not using the land in that situation, right? And
well, it's not to say that every homeowner acts like this.
I know, but in this situation, this is private property rights that you're defending. Now we can expand it out, and I think that even if you include land you're living on, it doesn't change the fact that you are still making a statement of violence, right? But I mean, if you want to make those defenses, we can find a more specific thought experiment for you to answer. And this thought experiment, you said, according to your philosophy, that's his private property. He should technically have the right to defend it. But I'm asking you, what makes that like statement of violence actually like defensible?
Is it stopping someone else?
Yes,
it's ending the conflict, and it's ending the dispute or something like that.
Well, there was no dispute until the landlord came up to the homeless man with a gun saying, "Get the hell off my property before I kill you," right? That the conflict was created by the landlord.
I mean, if he killed him, then it'd be an act of aggression, but if he's only using the same amount of force to stop the force,
he's not using any force. The homeless man isn't using any force. He's just sleeping on their property.
But it's his property.
Yeah, but what makes that his right to use force against the homeless man?
To stop the man from sitting on their property.
But why is that okay?
Because it's his property.
But what makes that okay?
It's not.
You understand how your argument is circular, right?
For approaching, the person is a total douchebag for approaching a homeless person, just threatening right off the bat. Isn't it like more courteous to say, "Hey, you have to go because I'm sorry, but you have to go. You can't sleep here." And if the person's
and the
not,
homeless man says, What do you mean? Like, this is an empty piece of land. It has some shade in it. I really need to stay here to be able to sleep for the night. Like, I'm gonna stay.
And then you could ask.
Still, there's no violence.
Is there a shelter nearby that you could go to? Politely asking.
I mean, there might be a shelter, but then I have to walk like 5 miles, and I don't know if I'm gonna get mugged. It might start raining, and I'll get all my clothes wet. It might, destroy some of the stuff I have on me. Like, why can't I just stay on this land for the night? I mean, like, do you understand? You're kind of like deflecting from the actual issue because.
All right. Well, if there really is no other way, then yes, that person could stay for the night.
Really? So how do you have private property rights if anybody can just walk on and stay on your private property for the night?
Well, the person can be generous to the one person for the night, as long as
if it's my property,
as long as he doesn't try to destroy anything around the property. It doesn't be disrespectful on the property. And if that's too much to ask for the homeless person to do, then the homeless person has to go.
Are you saying that the landlord doesn't have the right to make determinations of what happens on his property?
He does.
This sounds really close to the defense of taxation. This person has so much money, and it wouldn't really hurt them to take away some of their money and give it to a poor person who really needs it. Right? Because you're basically saying that for the social good, people can have access to other people's private property, right? It kind of sounds like you don't really believe.
It's ultimately up to the homeowner. Value is subjective.
Okay, but so if the homeowner says no,
then
you can't stay. Is it okay for he or she to aggress on the homeless man that wants to sleep there?
Well, if it's his property, it's ultimately up to him to decide.
No, well, so I agree with you that if you have private property, it's your right to decide what to do on it. But I'm also recognizing that this is a statement of violence, of aggression. I'm saying I own this property. If you try to encroach on my property, I will physically aggress against you, or I will ask the police to physically aggress against you. The issue is that your entire philosophy, self-purportedly,
this is semantics.
No, it's not.
That's what it is. It's semantics.
No. What I'm pointing out that your entire philosophy is self-contradictory. It's founded on this idea of people's rights to private property and to not be aggressed against. Yet you're implicitly saying it's okay to aggress against people if it's for your private property rights. Ergo, you've blown up your entire moral system because you've made an exception for when it is not appropriate to use initiations of violence.
Like you're confusing defense with aggression. That's just not cool.
But
that's just contradictory.
But the problem, okay, so saying defense is circular, because why is it okay to aggress against somebody who goes on your property? It's like, oh, well, it's my property. Well, how do you know it's your property? Oh, because I'm using it. Well, what if you're not currently using it? It's just an asset that you're hoping appreciates in value. Well, it's mine because I go there and I defend it, or I pay somebody to defend it. Okay, so you're basically saying that it's your right to defend a piece of property because you're defending it. So the act of aggression, the statement of violence, is in itself a justification for owning private property. And I might be getting too wordy here.
It's not aggression if you're not doing anything to someone who's just passing by. But if someone wants to sleep and decides to be disrespectful on your property, then yeah, you're being disrespectful, and I won't tolerate that. You gotta go.
Okay.
It's just courtesy.
I wish I'm really trying to find a way to describe this in a concise manner, because I'm worried that I'm getting too wordy.
Yeah, a little too wish-washy, a little too semantic. Oh, do you mind if I invite a friend of mine?
I don't care.
All right. Ancap, I'm gonna DM you an invite on Discord.
Okay, I'm not gonna stay for too much longer because my beautiful girlfriend wants to call. So.
Okay, this won't take long. This won't take long.
I gotta go in a little bit too.
So.
Tennis, how did you become a tribune on Rocket Debates?
What is Rocket Debates?
A server you're in. They made you admin for some reason.
Wait, what? I didn't even run. There was an election. I didn't even run.
That's fucking awesome, dude. I get banned, you get become a tribune for free.
Okay, I'll unban you. Wait, are you banned still?
I have the rule banned. It restricts me from talking in the general chat.
I actually can't. I actually can't remove your roles. I don't know what. I actually don't know what Tribune gives me. Tribune of the plebs. Maybe that means I'm a lower level mod. I don't really know though. But that's really funny that I got. They gave me the a mod role and I didn't even run for it. That's funny. Okay, so I don't know if I can say this in a concise manner. So I'll say it this way. Are you familiar with the logical concept of a special pleading?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a special pleading, for anybody that's listening that doesn't know, is where you establish an argument, and within that argument you include an exception without actually justifying why it's an exception. And your argument is that aggressing against other people, initiations of violence, are wrong. Yet, in order to secure your private property, you must aggress against other people in order to secure your land. Therefore, the idea of a non-aggression principle is self-contradictory with the idea of private property. Which is why I don't really understand how somebody can be an anarchist and also be a capitalist, right? Seems to me like if you're going to be an anarchist, you're going to have to be a commie.
No. Communists aren't anarchists. Communists are... They have
Except the anarchist communists. Those are just an exception.
I mean, I don't agree with their. I think that they have self contradictions in their own arguments as well, but at least not with private property. And I mean, they at least say that private property is violence as well, right? Is I for Capitalism your friend that you wanted to invite?
Yep, that's him.
Okay.
Hello.
I don't hear him talking. Okay, there we go.
He is.
Okay, so real quickly, I just wanted to double check because I wanted to make sure that like you're not feeling dogpiled or anything like that, right? Because I want everything, of course, to be like civil and calm, cool, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, even
Like a moderator.
I don't care about being dogpiled. It'll be okay.
Well, I would say like this is, I think, the most important thing that's probably needs to be addressed because I think this is probably what's kind of causing a little bit of a semantic circle jerk here. And I promise I'm not trying to be condescending or anything like that. It's just we need to maintain the proper steps when going about this route of logic, correct?
Didn't seem like I disagreed with much of what you said. I don't think that this is semantic in any way. But sure.
Well, allow me to explain myself. The reason why I'm saying this is because I assume that you believe that, one logical step can be contingent upon another, can be contingent upon another, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so with the whole thing with the homesteading principle, which is really kind of what we're getting to at the home of this, is that regardless of whether or not you're basically setting aside just an empty piece of land to let it appreciate in value, all that stuff, you're still going to be building a fence around it. You're still going to be putting a no trespassing sign around it. You're still going to be letting people around you very much know that this is owned property, regardless of whether or not.
You're basically using labor you put into defending your land as an excuse to defend your land, right? So you
not really as an excuse, but.
Well, you're basically saying, well, no, even if you have land, you're still putting labor into like defending it. So technically you're still using it. But the problem is that defense, what you're talking about, are statements of violence or initiations of violence. Because
how can it be defensive? It's an initiation.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. That I'm saying that what you're saying is self-contradictory. So that's a good question to ask yourself, not me.
Well, this is the whole thing that I'm bringing this up because this is why I'm saying that, one thing is contingent upon the other here. So the whole point of this is that you have mixed, this is the Lockean sense. You've mixed your labor with the land. You are now under ownership of the land. You own the land. We are in agreement with that, right?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay, so I think the point of contention comes in with the contingents upon that. So with the ownership comes, certain rules about it. The main rule basically being that this land that you've mixed your labor with is now an extension of the concept of self-ownership, right?
Say that
because
one more time.
Without this contingent, basically the whole concept of mixing your labor with the land, homesteading it, all that stuff, basically what you've done is you've claimed your ownership over it, and that labor that you mix with the land falls under the concept of.
Yeah, I think that. So, I mean, if I were to say it, I would basically say that you have self-ownership of yourself, and then now whenever you go out into the world and change something or create things with your labor, those are extensions of your self-ownership.
Yes.
Right? So I agree with that. But my problem is that, like, when you start to homestead land and you build these fences and you build the fences, those in and of themselves are initiations of violence. So you're using initiations of violence to justify initiation of violence, right? So if I were to say this, so let me say it this way, and I hope that I don't get too wordy on this, but I'm basically asking, you're saying that how do you know it's right to defend your land for that landlord? And then you'll say, well, he's he bought a gun, he's watching over his land, he's building fences, and right. So and I say, well, those are initiations of violence, right? So how do you know that that's his land? Oh, well, he's initiating violence to defend it, right? So you're basically saying it's okay for him to initiate violence because he's initiating violence to defend it. Like, do you understand how that's circular?
I can see where you're coming from when it comes from that, but I think that this is where we're kind of getting bogged into this whole thing. I need you to kind of explain more what you're talking about, because I think I get at what you're saying, but I want to make sure I'm not strawmanning you here. What exactly are you talking about that, the mixing of the labor of the land is an act of violence?
Well, this is kind of different from if I'm using the land, like, I don't know, if there's a well that I'm using to, be able to provide myself and my family with like water to drink or something, and I like dug the well and built it, et cetera, right? That's different from me literally just randomly cutting off a piece of land that I want to appreciate in value so I can sell it to somebody later, and then the only labor I'm using in that land is actually literal declarations of violence, because you're basically saying that, you build a fence, which is basically preventing people from being able to access on it. If I patrol it with a gun, then I am basically telling people, if you try to walk on my land, I will shoot you, right? So these things are like acts of implicit aggression, because you're saying, hey, if you walk on this land, I'm going to kill you. The same way that a police officer saying, hey, you can't smoke that plant, is an act of aggression, because they're saying, if you do smoke that plant, I will basically crack your skull and put you in jail, right? So
yeah,
for you to use the fact that they're defending their land as a reason why they're allowed to defend their land, A, is self-contradictory with the non-aggression principle, and B, it's circular logic.
Well, the thing is, I haven't fully,
because they're doing violence. Yeah.
I haven't fully laid out all the contingencies here. The reason why I'm asking you in this particular context is because, like in this case, you brought up a difference between the water well and the piece of land. So, if with your principles in mind, how exactly is the water well any different from the piece of land? You're still mixing your labor with a natural resource.
I mean, my way of my morality is probably like a decent bit different than yours. So like my explanation is going to be like inherently different, because I don't like have a non-aggression principle.
Right, I can see that. The point that I'm trying to make is that you have to have a consistent, logical set of principles to get you to that point. The whole reason why we got to that point of the ownership is because at that point, say for the land would be unowned. Just as with the water well, that water well, that area is basically unowned until you have placed that item there to collect that natural resource, and therefore that item is yours. You own it, whereas it was previously unowned. I know this sounds really semantic, but I'm trying to get at the heart of the matter.
Well, okay, so I mean, like, even then, your concept of unowned is a little bit ethereal, because there are probably people who walked on that land and did stuff on that land before you started to build upon it, right? You were just the first person to decide to build a fence. All right, see ya.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, even then, your principle of like being the first owner or first user isn't necessarily true. You're just the first person who's decided to make a statement of aggression saying no one else can use this, right? So once again, you're using a statement of aggression to justify why you should be allowed to have a statement of aggression.
But the whole thing with that being is that if that's the case, if nothing can be quote unquote unowned, then all property rights basically fall apart, and you have nothing. You have no, and that includes self ownership, which, quite frankly, you don't own yourself. That's a inconsistent position to hold.
Well, I mean, no. I'm not necessarily saying that things can't be unowned. Especially like in my moral system, which, as I said, is different. But like, the fact is that like, what I'm trying to illustrate is that the only thing you've done that's different is that you've said no one else can use this, right? So that statement of no one else can use this is an initiation of violence, right? You can make an argument for why it's an acceptable initiation of violence, and I would agree with that acceptable initiation of violence, right? But you believe, if you are a libertarian or an ANCAP, that there's this non-aggression principle and people should not aggress against people. And it seems that your entire moral system basically implodes once we start to discuss, private property in this sense.
I don't think it necessarily follows, because what I'm trying to get to the heart of the matter is that how can and again, I'm not trying to be condescending or anything here. It's just simply, how can you justify or how can you hold two different positions where you can tell somebody else they're unjustified in owning land, but then tell yourself that you're justified in acquiring unowned property at the same time?
Well, that's why I don't necessarily know if you can. I'm pointing out it's a self-contradiction, because that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like so I would be a rule utilitarian, and I believe in certain rules or for society that cannot be broken, right? So people have rights to property, and people have rights to life and stuff. And they come from Lockean sense of self-ownership, where, yeah, you have the right to, if you use your labor to transform and create, then you should allow to have the profits of that. And I guess in a more modern situation, you would be getting money for your labor. And then if you buy a piece of land, you should have the right to say what is done on that land, right? But you believe in like this idea of non-aggression, where everyone should be a non-aggressive agent, and all initiations of violence are wrong. But I don't believe in that. I think that you can have morally acceptable initiations of violence, which is why I believe in the state, and which is why I believe in private property rights.
This is actually a really good conversation, and I'm really happy that you brought up rule utilitarianism, because that actually makes this conversation a lot more interesting. So thank you for following up on that. But I think the main difference in ideology, really, so to speak, is that, well, for one, utilitarianism is a consequentialist idealism, right? It's a materialist, consequentialist idea, and it is it's an empirical ideology, correct?
Yeah, you could say that. And I might all my personal beliefs might not be like 100% in line with like what a mainstream philosopher might say, and that might be to my fault, or that might be not to my fault, but that's what it is.
Well, the good thing for you is that technically you're not really bound by those principles, because it's not really a principle that it's a principle that basically states that there's no absolute truth claims, and we can get into that one later. But basically, the thing about
I was just going to say, I don't necessarily think that all rule utilitarians would say that there are no like absolute truth claims. I, depending what you mean, could disagree or agree with that. But regardless.
To bring it back home, what I'm specifically talking about is the difference, I guess you would say, where we kind of split ways is that in regards to rule utilitarianism, and it's okay. I don't mind kind of giving you leeway of kind of playing fast and loose with it because that's reasonable. For us, we take a different approach, whereas instead of empiricists, we're rationalists that understands that the ideas that that we follow and the principles that we have all stem from very unique axioms, basically.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm arguing with you from a like rationalist standpoint, right? I'm basically saying that I think that your two values or axioms of private property and non-aggression are at odds with each other and contradictory. And that's why I have this thought experiment of the homeless man and the landlord to illustrate that.
Right. So the way that the axioms follow when it comes to the concept of self-ownership is that it's important to say self-ownership in differentiation to, first, if somebody else owned you, then the whole concept of ownership is based around if you can exert dominion over something, is that you can do with it as you will. You can, inflict whatever power that you can on that piece of property, and you can also exclude as much as you want.
Yeah, but I mean, like, unless you're basically saying that I'm just asserting that as being true in and of itself, that I don't think that you've justified that preposition. And secondly, I think that it is contradictory with your earlier statement of non-aggression, right?
How exactly?
Well, that's what the entire point of my thought experiment earlier, where the homeless man who walks onto your property because he needs a place to sleep isn't actually making any physical aggression against you. He's just walking on a piece of land, and you're going to aggress against him by forcing him to leave, or even like fucking shooting him, right?
Well, here's the whole thing about that too. This is also a two-parter thing here, where first there's a methodology of going about this. You don't just see somebody who's just on your property and you just don't even say anything. You don't even say, oh, hi, or help, or what the hell, and just shoot them automatically without giving them a chance to go. Things escalate to a certain extent. You would say, yeah, you would. Well, it would just be a situation of cruel and unjust, just really egregious ways to go about it. So if somebody's, doing something very simple like,
can I say here my issue?
I'm sorry, what's that?
So like, I feel like, firstly, since y'all are anarcho-capitalists, I don't really necessarily understand how you can say that, oh, well, people shouldn't be allowed to just shoot you if you're on their property. And it's like, well, this is an anarchist society that really only believes in private property rights, and they're moving on to your private property. I don't understand why they shouldn't be allowed to do whatever they want at that point. But regardless, I feel like you're just kicking the can down the road. Well, okay, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound condescending by using that voice. You're saying like, oh, well, obviously you wouldn't immediately just shoot the person, and you'd ask them to leave politely, blah blah blah. Well, okay, like, what if the person is basically saying, hey, I don't have anywhere else to go. I need somewhere to sleep for the night. I'm going to stay here. Eventually, you're going to be physically aggressing with them. You might not be literally shooting them in the head, but you're going to be like grabbing them and then throwing them out, and they may or
it would escalate as long as they continue to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, you're going to be escalating. So you're going to be aggressing against them.
Right. So my main point is that this is where we're saying that this is conflating, because the best way to put this is the concept of the initiation of force. What this is this person, because what they're doing is they're trespassing. That's property that belongs to you. That's an extension of your own self-ownership that somebody is just basically parasitizing on just by, it sounds a little harsh, but absolutely.
This is why I talked about earlier about how this is a circular justification, right? You're basically saying that it's my property because I'm defending it. So what gives you the right to defend it? Oh, well, I'm defending it, right? It's
not my property because I'm defending it. I have a right to defend it, and this person doesn't have a right to just flee exclusively.
Why does
and this is where
have the right to defend the property?
And this is where it all comes back to that is that, first of all, it's under your ownership now. And the reason why that is
what makes it under your
valid.
Ownership?
Huh?
What makes it under your ownership?
The fact that you've mixed, the labor, the land, all that good stuff. You've transformed it from an unowned piece of a resource, basically. And in this case, of course, unowned, we also need to understand that unowned is basically, I see a rock on the ground, I pick it up. Technically, it's mine. I own it because nobody's pushing any exclusive rights upon that rock.
Okay, but
now, if I picked up a rock on somebody's property,
all this landlord is doing is defending the land. That's the labor they're putting in to it. So what the action that they're doing in themselves is aggression, right? They're getting guns to defend it, right? So you're basically saying that act of aggression justifies them having aggression against other people, telling them they're not allowed to have access to this land. That's why.
Well, again, it's not the defense itself that's doing the. It's not the defense itself that's the actual labor that you're mixing with the land. It's the actual homesteading of it. It's the putting up the fences. It's putting the no trespassing sign.
But that's aggression, right?
How is that aggression?
You're putting up a fence and you're not allowing other people to go inside your property. You're patrolling your land with a weapon. Right? Those are acts of aggression.
No, it's not. Not if it's your own property. Unless,
but it's only his property because he's doing those things. As you said.
No, that's not true. It's your property because that's an extension of your self-ownership. That's the reason that gives you the justification for owning that property. And of course, defense of that property that you owned, is followed by that. Okay,
so I feel like we've exhausted the philosophical discussion. I want to talk a little bit about the practical, if you're okay with that, or
yeah, we can do that.
So, all right. I mean, okay. I'm not gonna stand for too much longer, but basically, all right. Let's say, how do you actually establish private property rights in Ancapistani?
Well, it's usually pretty easy. It's basically just a situation of, of course, there's a lot of steps that's involved with it. It's I would say a simple process, but not an easy process, because basically what you can do is you can buy just a large chunk of land. It could be within a state or without a state. It doesn't really matter. Basically, you can kind of do the same thing in America that you can do in Somalia. But it makes more sense to do it in America since there's actually more liberty.
So you can buy a piece of land in Ancapistani, right? So right. What makes that land yours once you buy it?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, like I said, it goes back to the moral thing that you are actually the owner of the land, so you can do that.
Just talking about the practical,
but
right?
As far as the practical goes, when you have a piece of ownership, you defend your property.
So it's literally just whoever has the most guns, they have the right to the property. So what prevents a more wealthy, more powerful person from just stealing my land?
Well, the whole thing about that is that you're kind of getting into the whole warlords argument, aren't you?
Maybe I am. I'm basically just saying that you need a central authority to adjudicate whose land it is, right?
That's not necessarily true. The big thing is that you need enforcement of, because regardless of whether you're a statist or a non-statist, there's going to be defense going on.
Yeah,
whether you're calling the police or whether you have a private security force, there are going to be people showing up with guns to defend the property.
Yeah,
or of course you can do it yourself, or you can set up your own defenses, all that, whatever is appropriate for whatever you're doing.
Yeah, but what it sounds to me is basically whoever can pay the most for the best defenses at the end of the day gets all the right to property, right?
Well, how is that any different from the state?
it's not how it works. Like, I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question.
Because that's all the state is just a bunch of people with guns.
I know, but the state is at least somewhat accountable to the general public, and one person can't just basically like initiate force to change an outcome, right? Like, you go to court, and if I win the court case, you can't just say, nah, fuck it, and then buy a big army to overtake the property anyways, right?
Well, you can, but what naturally happens from that?
The government stops you.
Exactly.
Right, so people don't do that. But like, my point is,
well, people can still do it. That's probably the most important thing that we can take away from this, is that regardless of the rules imposed on whatever society you're in, there's no possibility that you can actually dictate another human being's actions.
See, I disagree there, because when you centralize authority, so one person, there's a monopoly of authority and violence, you can't have multiple different institutions claiming different people own the same piece of land, and multiple different institutions that enact violence defending the land, right? So, I mean, like, theoretically in Ancapistani, I could have my own private defense force defend the land. You could get your own private defense force to defend the land, and neither of us are practically more right than the other, and whoever basically has the best defense force is going to win. That's not really how it works in a centralized version, because there aren't 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different like land licensing companies or defense contractors. It's the monopoly of violence. You can control it in that way, because you have a monopoly, a centralized thing, adjudicator.
Yeah, I see where you're getting from this. That's a good point, actually, but I have two semi-rebuttals when it comes to that. First of all, that already happens with the state, and you know why that is?
Why is that?
Because you yourself, as a person, as an individual entity of in and of yourself, you can own the deed to a title of land. That's your land. You have the right to defend it as an individual and as a person. But the government is ultimately the one who actually provides exclusive rights over it. It can kick you out of your property anytime you want, for any reason, for just anything at all, and say, well, that's mine because it's mine.
I mean, I think that that's a little bit disingenuous, because you're more or less implying that like this like our societal system will crumple, and then an authoritarian government will just steal everybody's land. I mean, I understand that eminent domain happens, and I think that eminent domain can be justifiable dependent on the situation. But I mean, a much more reliable, I find a central adjudicator that is somewhat oh no, wait, am I gone? Am I still here?
Nope, you're still here. I hear you.
Still here.
Okay, because I turned off my antivirus for an hour, but it said it aborted the connection with this website, but I guess I'm still good. But I have to go soon anyways. Okay. But yeah, I think that a central adjudicator is still going to be much more reliable than basically multiple different private companies or private entities trying to control private property rights without any sort of like oversight.
Well, this is the thing. This is why ultimately principles come into the matter of this. And I know this is a bit of an extreme example, but I'm also going to put this out there just as the first one, just because it's the easiest one to throw out there. For principles, is that just because it makes it easy doesn't necessarily make it right. At the same time, I can always go and, for example, I can always pin down somebody that's less strong than me and sexually assault them. And that's real easy, because I can just exert force over them. No problem, no sweat. I get what I want, and who cares about what happens to them? I got mine in the end. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. I don't understand how
that's the
benefits your argument.
But I wouldn't be justified in partaking in that action, right?
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, so if you believe in principles, but you don't actually have a practical way of enforcing those principles, you might as well just not have them, right?
Well, in that case, we would say that that basically anybody can exert that force on, like, say, a small petite woman. So her best equalization would be to pull out a gun, right?
I mean, sure, but I mean, like, are you saying that in Ancapistan, like, all women will have to personally carry a fucking, like, Glock, or else they'll just get raped with no
pepper
fucking
spray? Could be pepper spray.
Sure.
It could be
anything. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But like, or else it's
Well,
just
the whole point of it is that
rape them. I mean, that kind of sounds fucked.
The whole point of it is that a lot of statists, they kind of have this mentality of, well, if you can't enforce it, then it doesn't exist. The whole thing is that that's kind of backwards, because what our ideology, what it does is it creates the formulation for justification, and as long as you maintain, consistency within those principles, you have a framework for a moral, method of justice, basically. Whereas with the statist thing, basically it's similar to like a mafia or a roaming rapist, is that, we say we have these things like the social contract and all that, but first of all, it doesn't mean anything because it's written under duress. Just by us being automatically born, we're forced into this contract. If anything like that would be automatically thrown out in just a regular court of law. And then secondly, on top of that, the whole fact of the matter is that this is why the concept of consent is so important within with us ANCAPs here, is because
by the way, I gotta go.
When you have a situation, oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I was waiting for a good stopping point, so just.
Sorry about that. We should definitely do this again sometime.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sure. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, it was good talking to you.
Thanks for coming on. It was interesting.
Yep. Thank you.
Whew. You should probably end the stream here. It's been on for 3.5 hours.
Not 2.5. It's 2 hours 36 minutes.
This says,
final discussion. Then we'll do thank yous, and then
It says it's been live for 3 hours and 33 minutes.
All right. Well, any final words before I say thank yous?
No, not really.
How about you, Ancapistani?
One more time, real quickly. What is the name of this other individual that we have on the line?
I go by Seek It.
Okay. We should definitely do this again sometime, because the whole thing is that I think with a lot of these things, that even though our conversations can kind of get heated, because that's just kind of always the way it goes when debates go on, I like these kind of back and forth, and it's good to be able to test our principles against people who think differently than us. So we're not exactly a echo chamber here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, I think other than that, just we had a pretty good conversation. And Cap Kitty, thank you for having me on, and thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Awesome having you on. Thank you for the help. Really.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't want to just kind of steal the show away from you guys. I just wanted to try to make things a little bit more concise and pointed in the right direction.
Actually, you helped a lot. This debate helped a lot into the whole topic that I started on.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's win-win.
Cool. We definitely need to do another stream together sometime. It's been a while, and I missed this.
Yeah, it was awesome having you back. Yes, you got to come back again soon.
Absolutely. All right, well, I'll go ahead and let you guys go. Again, thank you guys for having me. We'll do this again, all right?
Yeah.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. Okay, I guess I'll do the thank yous. Thank you to Ancapistani. Thank you to Volnas, Zach the Agrist, JC Armitage, Attack Helicopter Cat, new people in the chat, Jim LaHaye. Let's see. There was someone, non-Chicago Economic School advocate. Isanzo. Yeah, a bunch of people came in here in the chat. Yeah, wow. So yeah, anyway, thank you for tuning in. It's been a very interesting stream. Good night.